They've been married for over 2 decades and have raised 3 children. But before walking down the aisle, Jeeva and Sulojana Sam had only spoken once, for 15 minutes.
We actually met longer than most Indian couples did at that time. Yeah. Ours was an arranged marriage, which is an Indian tradition, which basically means that your families work through a go-between, call the person a broker, if you will, who basically deals with both families. And so our families did the talking first and felt that there was a match here that we could actually meet. And so that's how we met.
With the little time they had, they asked a few questions before making one of the biggest decisions of their lives.
We knew, they were from Canada. So we looked up the map and, the one question I had was, how cold does it get in Canada? He told me it would be very cold, but I didn't have a clue.
In India, we're considered to be middle-class people, and so middle-class people usually meant that the people themselves didn't do a lot of the housework. You had help. So I had to let Sulojana know that when she came to Canada, there would be no maid service.
And so with that, the Sams got hitched in a wedding ceremony that involved their entire community and a lot of food.
Our wedding was in the morning, so there was a feast at her place right after. And then that same evening, when we get to our place, other place where we were staying at the time, which was my auntie's place, then we had another big feast.
Oh, wow.
That evening again.
After 26 years, Jeeva and Sulojana Sam make marriage look easy, but it hasn't always been that way. They spent the first 6 months of their marriage apart, and when Sulojana finally arrived in Canada from India, they both had to make adjustments.
We were living in a small town in Saskatchewan called Kincaid. On a good day, when the wind was blowing right, the population was about 350. As a matter of fact, we were driving from Regina, where the airport is, down to our house in Kincaid. And all of a sudden she said to me, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. And she said, where do all the people live?
For me, leaving my family behind in India and then, coming all the way to Canada and just a, whole new culture. And then, a new husband and, being a pastor's wife. And then 3 weeks later, I lost my dad. So that was hard. And then a few months later, I was pregnant and had had our first child that same year. And so it was lots of adjustment, but we got through.
And as most married men will tell you, the transition from bachelor to husband was a learning experience, Jeeva says.
And so all of a sudden, this whole thing about, sharing your house with another person, sharing the bathroom with another person. The Indian culture does it the opposite way of the way things happen in Canada. Here you fall in love and then get married. Well, there you get married first, then you fall in love. And so in some ways, your first year of marriage is really more like a courtship. You're just getting to know each other.
Although neither of them can pinpoint exactly when it happened, they both agree that falling in love was a process.
I think for me, it took a few years. I was in love with him, but I think as we lived together and as the years went by, the love grew.
Like there were times when we would take vacations, just the two of us, and I think maybe those times is when we, maybe acted more like lovers than than just a husband and wife, and so maybe those were some of the times that made us realize that
that's right, yeah.
that we had. Fall in love. It wasn't just any act of the will.
As they travel down memory lane, they say even through their ups and downs, their marriage has been rewarding.
It's the companionship, the sharing life together, having children, and sharing our responsibilities together, traveling, we've traveled a little bit and just to enjoy life together, God put us together for a reason, so might as well enjoy it, and make good use of it.
It's the fact that you have somebody there for you who loves you unconditionally, and as much as you have your differences and annoyances, that your love is solid, and so you never have to worry about it.
And one way they've kept their marriage solid is by making each other top priority.
Next to God, it's Jeeva, and there are times, I'm not perfect. I haven't done that. Sometimes it's children, So But Jeeva was very understanding, and I think that's the main thing, that you're going to go through your ups and downs, but it's a commitment.
And that's not just in theory, but you have to reinforce that. You have to show your spouse by your calendar, for example, that they are the number one person in your life.
For many couples, the romance either cools or dies completely, Jeeva says, but that simply hasn't been the case with these two.
In the early days, there's a lot of what you might call romance in the marriage, going out, eating out, candlelight dinners and wine and all that kind of stuff. And then as time goes on, that gets replaced by dirty diapers and dishes and everything else. Well, those were never really part of our routine, as we were going or growing in our marriage in the early years. We probably eat out and do that kind of stuff more now than we did before.
After years of working together in their church, the Sams say the inability of many couples to put their partner's needs ahead of their own and the overall lack of commitment in secular and Christian marriages today is troubling.
Because of the high rate of breakups, a lot of couples don't have good role models. So if you grew up in a broken family, then you do not know what it was to be a Christ-centered marriage. Is a lot of people are not hanging in there long enough. The other thing that I'm noticing also is that a lot of couples today live together before they get married, and they have this false belief that just because you live together you're going to have like a long-lasting marriage. Well, all statistics prove the exact opposite.
And when it comes to hanging in there, they say couples need to understand conflict is a part of marriage and is bound to happen, no matter how long you've been married.
Some people think, going through your marriage, oh, the grass is greener on the other side, and then you go to another person and you leave this one, and then, it's the same thing. You're going through the same thing, and, maybe you have to look back and see, am I being the right person? Am I working through my problems, or am I, just jumping, from one person to another and not resolving the problems. Just grass is not greener on the other
Or if
side.
the grass is greener, it also means there's more manure there. So, so if you want the green grass and you're willing to put up with the manure, go for it.
Blind date.
Having married and then counseled many couples on the verge of divorce, the Sams say that marriage is in trouble. That's why they're taking the Love Dare.
We need to do something with our couples before something happens. Quite often, we're there to help with them once they're at the stage where they're saying, I don't think we can make this thing work. So instead, why not start with them when they're young in their marriages and along the way.
And by taking the dare for 40 days, they hope to also improve their marriage and maybe even learn some new things about each other.
And especially when you've been married together for a while, you do fall into certain patterns, and I'm sure there are certain ways in which I still take Sulojana for granted, and I could be, doing more, and so I believe it'll make our great marriage even greater.
The Sams have raised 3 children, so I couldn't resist asking them if their kids are open to arranged marriage.
No, it's a no to them.
Yeah, their reaction is exactly what we just showed you.
Their big question is, how can you marry somebody that you don't know? Yeah. Because I understand them, the way the Canadian, culture is, and, if I was born and brought up here, I probably would have thought the same thing.
It's not the arranged marriage itself that's responsible for where we are today. It's how we've grown. I mean, our desire is that that they will have learned something, from our example, that they will know to make wise choices. Then maybe they begin to realize that maybe mom and dad do know a thing or two, even though they never dated.
The Love Dare continues every day until February 9th. Follow the Sams as they blog and post videos online. You can also join the dare and post your own comments. To find out how you can take the dare with someone you love, visit 100huntley.com/lovedare. In St. Catharines, Ontario, I'm Bridget Entry for 100 Huntley Street.